The Resident Evil series has seen 1 remaster, 3 remakes, 2 tangentially related sequels, and 8 horribly made live-action adaptations that were all a struggle to watch. With the remake of Resident Evil 4, it seems Capcom is on a nostalgia kick with their prized survival horror franchise. Now, if you're a fan of the genre, this is a good thing. Now, I personally love Resident Evil, and it's my hope that Capcom doesn't stop with just Resident Evil 4 being remade. Sure, Resident Evil 5 and 6 are drastically different games from its predecessors, but you gotta blame that on RE4. With RE4, Capcom made the bold move of implementing action elements into its tried and true survival horror franchise and formula, which proved to be quite successful and refreshing. Now, sure, there were plenty of brooding elements and moments where you were in fear of what you might see around that corner, but the fact that you were able to walk around in daylight fighting monks, a dude with a chainsaw wearing a sack of potatoes on his head, and a rock band named Iron Maiden just made the game feel vastly different from previous entries. Wait, what? It's not American band Iron Maiden. Well, I was just testing the people that are watching you. That's right. RE4 was a welcome departure from the regular T-virus zombies you dealt with in previous games. And what's so great about the RE series is it managed to iterate on its previous entries. Like Resident Evil 3 was one of my favorites back in the day because it reminded me of every single horror movie I've ever seen with slashers, like Jason Voorhees or Mike Myers, where, you know, there's like a protagonist that's constantly being hunted down by a single villain. And that's exactly how RE3 was, you know, with Jill Valentine running around and she was being chased by Nemesis, who kept screaming, "Stars!" Y'all remember that? It was quite frightening. Now that we've got RE4 remake coming, Capcom shouldn't stop there. Like, I want to see RE5 remade. Want to see Resident Evil 5. This game managed to top RE4 by placing our good old boy Chris Redfield in West Africa, extremely far removed from the mean streets of Raccoon City. Now, Chris finds himself teaming up with a woman named Shiva to try and stop a biochemical weapon from hitting the black market. But when they show up, a bunch of the natives in West Africa are infected with some parasitic thing that makes them zombies. Naturally, it makes sense, right, that would happen. It is, in fact, a Resident Evil game, after all. You gotta have some sort of zombified monster or genetic monstrosity to shoot indiscriminately in this game. Now, what was so unique about this particular entry is that it was co-op, so you could play with your friends if you had any. And it was at this point, a lot of folks felt that the Resident Evil franchise had lost its survival horror roots, which I agree to a point. I blame that on the undeniable success of Resident Evil 4. That was a slight departure from the survival horror genre, although not entirely. It still held on to those roots, but with RE5, that was completely thrown out the window. To me, it was still a good game. RE5 was great. What I liked about it was the multiplayer aspect, and the story was pretty compelling enough for me at the time. Like, I mean, it was so nice seeing OGs like Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, even Wesker. Wesker was there, baby. All of those characters had changed drastically from their Resident Evil 1 counterparts. Hell, Jill was some modified evil version of herself being puppeteered by Wesker. It was weird. It was like seeing like Kermit the Frog being puppeteered by Jim Henson if he were evil and wore sunglasses all the time. Now, I feel like some people might be torn as to whether or not RE5 was a good entry in the Resident Evil series, and I say it was, yes. Now, if you weren't able to experience it when it first came out, you should definitely pick it up and judge for yourself. Don't listen to those critics that are naysayers. Don't even listen to me, but do listen to me to the end of this video, because I got some good bits for you. Yeah. Now, the thing is, with RE5, that game gave birth to one of the most iconic memes in RE history, with Chris Redfield taking a punch to a boulder. That man punched the damn boulder. Like, where they do that at? That's weird. It's not even weird, it's impossible, inconceivable. Also, believe it or not, RE5 was once the best-selling game of the Resident Evil franchise and the top-sold game for Capcom until Monster Hunter World was released in 2018. So men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. It's your boy Hova. Then we got Resident Evil 6, which continued the Resident Evil departure from its survival horror roots, this time giving you a smattering of characters to choose from. You got your Leons, you got your Chris's, you got your Jake from State Farm, and BD Wong. Pretty sure those last two aren't correct, but you know, their names aren't really that important, but they kind of are important. I don't remember. It's been a while since I played Resident Evil 6. Whatever. Now with this one, there's another biochemical threat. This time it's worldwide. Now at this point, the US government has destroyed Raccoon City, so you can kiss that particular landmark goodbye. Now the game has the typical zombie-esque fanfare, this time dealing with the C virus. Yeah, the C virus. I swear this series is gonna run out of alphabet letters to use to name after these damn viruses. I mean, they're gonna have to find them their way to Sesame Street to find some more letters. Sesame Street. Low-key, I've never seen that show, so I'm probably not pronouncing it correct. Now, Jake from State Farm is Wesker's son, and they use his blood to find a vaccine to stop the outbreak. Now, this is just an abridged version of the plot, in case you're wondering. The point here is that with the type of storytelling contained within Resident Evil 5 and 6, we get to see the characters' progression. Various characters progress, especially our main boy, Chris Redfield. Like, wouldn't you want to see how he became the cold-hearted fashion icon we see in Village? More importantly, wouldn't you want to play as that guy? You want to play as him. You are him. Yes. Now, while I would like for Capcom to just, continue the Resident Evil series with another entry and give us RE9, I still want them to work on completing what they started and not treat those particular games, those two titles, as if they never happened, because they did happen. I remember them. I had a childhood. Don't ruin it by not remaking them. Come on. What made Resident Evil 7 as refreshing as Resident Evil 4 was the fact that it was a return to form with a survival horror entry in a way that has never been served up to us by Capcom, similar to how Resident Evil 4 was at its time. The first-person elements of Resident Evil 7 made it feel more ominous walking through the eerie household, and the fact that we're introduced to a slew of new enemies was a great touch. Not to mention a brand new protagonist in Ethan Winters added to the whole RE lore. And with Chris Redfield's major role in Resident Evil 8, worlds were colliding in a very good way. It really brought everything full circle, seeing our boulder-punching haunted mansion dweller in Chris Redfield. He didn't punch any boulders in Resident Evil Village, but it was just nice seeing him, there. He did punch some holes in Ethan's house in the beginning of the game. That's not a spoiler. It literally happens in the first few minutes of the game.
Get down! Mia! Chris? What the hell?
Sorry, Ethan.
No!
It's dope. And who knows what we'll get in Resident Evil 9, but Capcom, I'm talking to y'all directly. Please hear me out. Please don't forget about Resident Evil 5 and 6. Those games don't get enough love. I tell you, those two titles matter to us just as much as the 5 that came before them do. Now, don't treat those two as if they never happened, because they did and we remember. I mean, if you're going to put a fresh coat of paint on Resident Evil 1 for the GameCube, you're going to remake 2, 3, and now 4? Come on! You just got 2 more to go, and then you're all caught up. The process is complete. Then you can service up Resident Evil 9. Or you can do it at the same time. Honestly, I ain't tripping. I know there's a lot of people in the community that would love to see how you handle those two titles on current gen consoles with the new technology that's now available to us. Now, I'm advocating for a remake of those two titles, Resident Evil 5 and 6, because they both meant too much to me growing up. Not even so much, but too much. It really didn't matter. And that's because of y'all. That's because y'all are good storytellers, and I just love the Resident Evil franchise that much. Not to mention, I'm a bit of a completionist, so I just really want to see those two titles with a fancy new coat of paint on them, just like you did the other titles. I can't be the only one to think this, am I? There's got to be other people out there. If I am the only one, please comment down below. If I'm not, do the same thing. Comment down below. Let's have a conversation about this. Do you want a Resident Evil 5 and 6 remake? I need to know, because if I'm the only one in this boat, well, I'll just jump ship and just let the boat float by itself. But yeah, in the meantime, I guess we'll all enjoy Resident Evil 4 Remake to keep us all happy, and Resident Evil Village on VR, PSVR 2, if you're lucky/rich enough to own a PSVR 2. I'm not rich. I literally had to sell like 2 pairs of Yeezys to get this. And yeah, that was quite a doozy, because the thing is, with the way Kanye West has been acting nowadays, yeah, they're not worth that much on StockX, I'll tell you what. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one very soon.